Most of us have likely had this dream. You know the one, you're the captain of your own starship. Maybe it's Enterprise class, maybe it's Firefly class, doesn't really matter. What matters is that you're out there in a massive galaxy, and around any corner there could be a mystery or perhaps even real trouble. Now, let's be clear, it's not like nobody has ever built a galaxy to explore. There's Elite Dangerous and there's No Man's Sky for starters, and both of those are great, but there's something that they don't do. In the dream, we're on the bridge of a ship and someone says, "Captain, I'm reading something." And that one line is the whole difference between Elite, X4, Star Citizen and all those other games and the game that we don't yet have. So the difference here is that it's about how the ship itself discovers that galaxy. Think about it. Every hour you've ever put into Elite or No Man's Sky, nobody on board your ship has ever told you anything, not once. They've never said to me, well, they haven't given me any instructions or anything really. So every single time you've ever found anything out there, you found it because you flew there and looked for it with your own eyes, or because you used the scanning tools, or maybe even an external source from the game. And that's not something that we ever saw Picard or Kirk go and do. It's not what the captain of an exploration class vessel really does. Until now, no one has ever built this game, and that is where Starship Simulator comes in. Here, you don't play an explorer. There isn't really one in the sense that we have in other current space games. Instead, there are multiple crew roles: captain, engineer, pilot, science officer, tactical officer, doctor, morale officer, and more, as well as of course the passenger. And every single one of these is a real job aboard the ship. And that means when you're out there exploring, it tends to go something like this. Your sensors officer might detect a gas giant. You order a refuel, and then the science station offers up a bit more information, something else entirely. One of that gas giant's moons has an ocean underneath ice, and there's something alive inside of it. Single-celled maybe, but alive nonetheless. And the crazy good part is that ocean exists vast distances away, and you're stood on the bridge of your ship, and now you have a decision to make. And that has a heck of a lot riding on that one question. Can you trust what the ship is actually telling you? And that, as it turns out, is exactly what the latest update to Starship Simulator is all about. The update is called Genesis, and it's worth pointing out that this is not a patch, not in the traditional sense. Instead, what the dev is doing is taking two different systems that generated everything all together. One built the galaxy, one built the star systems, and both of these have been entirely separate inside the Unreal Engine. And then he's kind of binned them. So the whole lot has now been rewritten from scratch as a single C++ system. So let's start with the stars. There's loads of these, and out of all those, 21 million of them are actually real. They've been pulled out of a number of actual physical star catalogues, so every star you can see with the naked eye from Earth is in there. And here's why that matters for our little story about the moon we were just talking about. So the science officer has told you there's a moon around the gas giant they detected, and all that information, that moon, everything about it, has to actually come from somewhere, doesn't it? That moon needs a real history. So the update Genesis gives the moon that history, and I mean the whole thing, the whole point about it actually existing. You've got metallicity varying right across the galaxy. You've got circumstellar disks forming and then evaporating as well. There's planetesimals, pebble accretion, orbits clearing themselves out and planets smashing into each other. You've got moons forming, and some of those actually form out of those collisions. There's gas accretion, planetary migration, and much more besides. In other words, when the ship tells you that there's an ocean moon around a gas giant, that moon is sitting where it's sitting because some specific chain of events in the creation of the galaxy actually put it there. And every moon, every planet, every space anomaly, pretty much everything that you come across within the game is going to have its own history, and it's all going to exist for a reason. And that opens up a lot of possibilities, doesn't it? Because you're flying through the galaxy, and then in your massive exploration class vessel here, it's scanning all the planets around you in the galaxy. And then suddenly a science officer tells you something specific about something rare that actually exists. And then when you've got a galaxy that's being simulated as realistically as this one, the fact that you're detecting a rare object is probably worth paying attention to. And for me, this is a key difference between how exploration is functioning in Starship Simulator versus how it functions in Elite Dangerous, for example. In Elite, you go out there for yourself, you have to go star system to star system. It's painstakingly slow, and yes, it can be enjoyable. A lot of people have a lot of fun doing it, and I've spent hundreds of hours myself doing the same thing. You then use the various discovery scanners, and you have to essentially use these different tools yourself to kind of eyeball the data and locate things. It's interesting, it's a gameplay loop, it's worked well for Elite, but it does have two very specific problems, at least for me. Let me know if you feel the same way in the comments section. The first problem is that's never how exploration worked in the Star Trek. And the second point is that if I were to go back 10 years from here into the past, just before Elite Dangerous was ever released, the Elite form of exploration is not the form of exploration and discovery that I would have kind of landed on. It's not the system that I would have come up with. And don't get me wrong, I'm not picking on Elite because No Man's Sky kind of has the same philosophy as do pretty much all other space games out there. It's all a case of you going out and looking for things bit by bit. But here's the thing, when it comes to Starship Simulator, your ship is actually the instrument. It's not just a vessel that you fly that gets you from A to B to look out the window and use a few scanning tools to see if you can find something. Instead, it's a proper full-on exploration vessel, and that means it has everything that comes with that. So that little scene I described earlier, the census officer spotting a gas giant, the whole refuel story, and then the science station chiming in with something else about life on the moon nearby, that's not just a case of me making something up. That's the feature, that's the whole idea behind the game. That's what the developer has been building with the Genesis update. And for me, it's the kind of situation that leads to a very different idea of exploration. It's the idea of you travelling along in warp and an officer saying, "Captain, I've detected a strange anomaly in a particular star system or a rare class of planet or star," and then you making a decision on whether or not you want to divert course to go and investigate, and there actually being something there worthwhile to investigate. And all of this only really works if you've actually got a full-on simulated galaxy, but also a full-on simulated ship as well. And that's something that was worked back on in June. So starships, shuttles, transports, all that sort of thing now works under what is being termed as a vessel. And a vessel is the ship's computer. So when someone presses a button on the ship on a console somewhere, that button is actually issuing you a command to the ship, and in a very real way. For example, any panel can talk to any ship as long as that panel has the ship's ID. So your ship is fully wired as you might expect a real ship to be. This is something I've mentioned about before, the whole thesis, the whole concept of you being able to take the design from this ship and in the game and actually build a real one. Not necessarily a real working spaceship because that would be kind of ridiculous, but kind of like those sci-fi instruction manuals, the ones that work as a blueprint for the actual vessel itself, showing how everything is really wired up. That's the idea behind a Starship Simulator here. And that means that the things you discover and interact with in the galaxy will infect your ship, they'll have an impact on your ship, and your ship in turn will have an impact on the environment around you. And it's interplay between these two separate things that largely make up much of the gameplay. Now, in terms of the flight model, that is Newtonian, and also when your shuttles go down into an atmosphere, you'll find they use 4 different landing thrusters, a bit like a quadcopter actually. Apparently, the developer says this feels a lot like flying a drone, so if you flip it upside down and take your hands off the controls, it'll right itself and stop its own descent. That's all pretty interesting. There's also some flight assist modes coming too at a later date, for those of you who may want the game to manage a lot more of that flight model for you. Starship Simulator then is clearly making a lot of very good and steady progress. Right now the old demo is still available on Steam. That hasn't been updated in quite a while. The main thing that is getting updated is the developers build that some of the Kickstarter backers still have access to. I'm looking forward to seeing more on Starship Simulator over the coming months. Do let me know what you think about all of this in the comment section below. I'll also link the recent developer updates there so you can go and check out that information for yourself as well in case you want to go into real full-on detail with it. So thanks for watching this video all the way through. There is another one on the screen right here if you want to check that out. Do take care and I'll catch you next time.